The Johnsky is a YouTube channel run by and run for people over the age of 13. People under the age of 13 should click off of this video right now, or watch with a parent or guardian. Viewer discretion is advised.
You don't scare me!
No, this freaking today, militiamen. My name is King of Prime, and welcome back to another video here on the YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new Transformers Legacy Evolution figure, that being the Transformers Legacy Evolution's Voyager class, Tarn. Now, I realize that it is the week to review Tarn, as Neolabs and Perspective End both put out their Tarn reviews this week, as well as Neolabs' amazing Shattered Glass Tarn custom, which makes me drool every time I think about it. So I realized that it's time for me to review my Tarn, considering I've had him for way longer than I probably should have without a review. So, before we get into that review, let's take a quick look at the packaging. Up front, we have a picture of Tarn here in his very interesting Nothing mode, also known as the Cybertronian tank. We have his name there in the universe from which he is derived. The Legacy Evolution trades at the bottom there, as well as the Hasbro trades, Voyager class, and plastic-free packaging. Big Transformers trades along the side there, as well as the Takara and Generations logos. At the top here, we have the Transformers Legacy Evolutions trades once again, as well as some tech specs if you want to read them, and a QR code. On the side here, we have the new style of Transformers Legacy Evolution box art, which is absolutely beautiful. Got some Junkions on there. The Insecticons looking very nice. We finally get a hint at what's coming next with Bombshell coming soon. Some hot shot images. Laser Prime. We have Armada Prime there as well. And Legacy Tarn, who is looking at us very angrily. On the other side of the box, we have Tarn looking into the distance, as well as his name in Cybertronian. On the bottom there, we have him looking very angry, as he usually does, very cunning and elegant and wanting to kill you. On the back here, though, we have his name, as well as some images of the toy itself, both in robot and vehicle mode, 27 steps to transform, and a sort of advertisement for the Evo Fusion gimmick of his cannons, which I will show off in a minute. On the bottom of the back here, we have some legal jargon and some more legal jargon on the bottom. And that's basically it. I say it in every single video, but you only really care about the packaging if you are a in-box collector, of which I'm not. I'm here to open and review toys, and that is what I'm going to do. Freeze frame.
Alright, when I say trans, you say rights. Okay, got it. Great, let's go. Trans.
Freeze frame unfreeze, and I must admit, this guy is absolutely gorgeous. But before we take a look at Tarn, let's take a look at his accessories. Here he comes with his dual cannon. I believe these are fusion cannons. I could be mistaken. I only have read a little bit of More Than Meets the Eye. I haven't read all of it yet. I'm not super versed on Tarn himself, but I do know the basics. DJD can kill you with his voice, transformation addict, all that stuff. But these are his weapons, which is stored on a sort of Izzy Susan, which can turn, it's very clever, and it allows for accurate tank posing in the vehicle mode. But other than that, it just sort of serves as a platform for both of these weapons to be attached to when you're not in vehicle mode. And of course, this can attach to Tarn's arm. There's two ports in here, so you can have one up top, which limits articulation, but you can also plug it down on the bottom so that it does not, and so you can get accurate wanting to kill you poses like such. The weapons themselves are cast in clear plastic, so just be careful about that. They do, because of this, have very nice light piping, so if you get a light source under them, they will glow really well. You have two of them here. You have this one, which is sort of beefier, and then this one, which is not. This is supposed to be the end of the barrel, I presume. And of course, you saw these tabs already on the backs of either of the weapons, which means you can plug them into each other and have one super long cannon, which Tarn can hold if you so choose, like such. That's the Evo Fusion feature, which, you know, I'm not super fond of it. I prefer having the comic look of the Fusion cannon. But if you prefer the Evo Fusion rifle, then go for it. It's your figure after all. And that is that. Moving on from his weapons, Tarn himself is just a really nice looking figure. He's painted in super rich purple as well as really nice steely gray that makes up the metalworks of his vehicle mode treads. Some nice copper / gold details on the knee pads as well as silver as well. Same on the feet with that more darker violet color as compared to this lighter purple here. He also does have more pieces that are cast in clear purple plastic that can be seen through that sort of shine pink as well. He does have really good light piping, but just because of my setup, it doesn't really show off all that well. Get a little bit of hint of it, but I'll insert a photo here of what it can truly be like. Thanks to Reddit for allowing me to see that. But while we're up here, let's take a look at his head sculpt, which is just so incredibly comic accurate. It just looks absolutely phenomenal. You can definitely see the reason why Tumblr and Twitter thirsts over Tarn, because he's just so darn good looking. The Hasbro team really did a good job with this guy's design. I know that some people have said that, he's too short or he's too thin, but I also think that there's been a lot of liberties taken with the Transformers Legacy line, and that is contributed to this as well. On the chest here, he has a golden Decepticon sigil, which is just gorgeous. I'm not sure if this stands for the DJD or whatever, but it is very nice to see. On the back here, he has a little bit more of that clear pink / purple plastic that I was talking about. And that is basically it for the paint apps. As for the articulation of this figure, it is just as good as any of the recent Hasbro releases have been. He has a excellent ball joint at the head, so you can get, some nice squirrel poses, as well as a pretty good range of motion that is only, slightly hindered. You can even get him to look down a little bit if you really want to, but it's only slightly. You also have a very interesting shoulder joint where his shoulders are kind of mounted really high, so his shoulders end up on top of his torso when they go outward, but they do offer a full range of motion. You can get full 360s there as well on that hinge joint. At the elbow, you have a pretty good bend as well as a elbow swivel. You have a swivel at the wrist and a opening hand, which is very nice to see. Also, due to transformation, you can kind of get some sassy forearm poses with this little extra transformation hinge right in here. You also have a swivel at the waist as well as at the hips, which can go that far forward, that far back, and that far out. So pretty unimpeded range of motion there. You also do have this cool piece of engineering, which allows his flaps to kind of shift out of the way as you move the leg out, which is very cool. You'd have an upper thigh swivel as well as a bend at the knee, which can go that far back. You have a hinge at the toes, which can go that far down and that far up, as well as an ankle pivot, which is not the greatest, but it is there, and that is appreciated. So overall, articulation is pretty good. It's not, vintage collection standard, but it is pretty great for a Transformers figure, and that is what really counts in the end of it all. Before we get on to the transformation, let's take a quick look at a size comparison to see how Tarn here stacks up to some other figures. Freeze frame.
You can make it better. We don't have to fight.
Freeze frame unfreeze. Here is Tarn next to our previous Transformers review, the Transformers Studio Series 86 Core Class, the blue one. Here he is next to a little Lego minifigure, such as Luke Skywalker. And here he is next to an old friend, such as the Transformers Classics 06 Optimus Prime. That's how they stack up. And that looks pretty good. I do think that Tarn should be just a tad taller, maybe the same height as Prime. But again, liberties have been taken here. That figure is almost 20 years old at this point, so take it all with a grain of salt. So with that out of the way, let's get on to the transformation freeze frame.
Please, there will only be one. This is my planet.
Freeze frame unfreeze. Now to begin the transformation, the first thing you're going to want to do is just remove the fusion cannon. It's bog standard at this point for weapons. It would be nice to have been able to not parts form that off of this figure, but that's just not realistic in this time, you know, and I don't really mind it. It's weapons storage. It's fine. So to really truly start off, turn the figure around, and you're going to want to flip down these two guns here and tab them in to these holes. As you can see, there's a tab there and a hole there in the side of the gun, and just tab them in like so. Then you're going to want to remove this entire assembly from the back where it was previously tabbed into the two tank tracks and bring it down on this armature right here. Next, you're going to want to come back around to the front. Next, you're going to want to just lift up on his chest piece here, and it will come untabbed from those little holes that were in the other sides of the tracks. Next, you're going to just want to rotate his head back around, and at the same time, start bringing this chest piece up. While you're doing that, pull out on the tank tracks like so. Then you're going to want to start rotating the tracks forward like such, and while you're doing that, you can bring the chest piece up as well. Keep doing that and bringing the head back at the same time, and eventually you will reach its stopping point, and the arms will be completely folded up and forward at the front of the vehicle mode. Next, you're going to want to come back around to this armature right here and rotate it at this swivel point right there at the top so that the guns are facing the front. Next, you see this little pinhole in the butt right there and this little peg. You're just going to want to adjust the armature so that that peg goes into that hole. And once it does, hold it in place, and you can apply pressure on the top of the tank turret to push it down, and it will tab into place. Very nice. Next, you're going to want to just come around to the bottom. It's always easier to do it from the bottom at this point. And just rotate the shoulders so that the arms are facing downwards, like so, on either side. Next, you can connect the legs here using this tab into this hole, like so. And then you can straighten out Tarn's feet, like that. And we'll then move back up to the arms. See here, you have a tab right there, as well as a hole in the front of the forearm. What you're going to want to do is rotate this little panel, which had previously housed the weapon, on the side around, and then rotate the forearm at that elbow swivel so that it faces inward. Same thing on the other side. Let's rotate that around and then swivel the arm in. Next, you're going to want to use that awkward piece of articulation that I was talking about earlier and bend the elbow backwards at the same time to bring it up to the connection point and on the other side as well. Next, you're going to want to bend the knees out of the way and then hold on to the thighs and untab the calves from the knees where they just were. Just bring them out of the way so that they're no longer impeding the transformation. At this point, you can just tab in forearms into the thighs, like so, and you can also rotate the hands either down or all the way around. It doesn't really matter. They just need to be out of the way. Next, you're going to come around to the top, and you're going to see that there are two tabs right there and right there, which are going to end up here and here. These two tabs right on the back of the tank turret are also going to tab into the feet. So you just rotate that down. You'll hear some tabs starting to go in. And you're just going to make sure that each tab is in its place. You just saw that go down. Finally, you just want to come around to the sides here, where you can see there are still tank treads on the sides of each of his arms. Pull out this panel, which will, is just tabbed in there, and untab it from the side of the arm. This little panel right here is going to slide into the gap in between his arm and that panel, like so. And then you can just tab that in. Same thing on the other side. Untab the armature, open up the panel, slide in the panel to the open hole. It'll click, and then tap that down. That is the end of the transformation proper. Finally, you're just going to want to take Tarn's fusion cannon. You're going to want to rotate this gray piece all the way around. Get it to tab in properly, and you'll see that there are two tabs on the bottom here and two holes on the front of his calves, which are now the rear of the tank. Just slide those in, and you have a completed alt mode. Now, of course, being a Cybertronian tank mode, it doesn't really have any real-world standards to abide by. You could have probably seen in the transformation that there is absolutely no wheels. There's just sort of these 1, 2, 3, and 4 supports, which it can sort of just slide on, but I wouldn't recommend that. It'll scratch up your figure. It's just sort of, for display only, or just keep Tarn in his robot mode. Let's keep it real. He's more menacing in his robot mode than he is in the vehicle mode. That's not to say this vehicle mode looks bad, however. You still do have the nice gold Decepticon sigil at the front of the vehicle there, as well as the gold accents from his feet, and the knees sort of backing up the clear pink plastic and the purple all along the tank. On the side, you do actually gain access to the nice light silver accents, which make up the inner work, the road wheels of the tank tracks, which do look very nice. I do like the way that looks. But it would have been really nice if this vehicle had actual wheels, so it could roll along and not just scrape along my table. But regardless, it's okay, to be completely fair. And, you do have the rotating cannon still from the fusion cannon, which, can look in either direction. For comparison, we have a Lego minifigure, such as Luke Skywalker, as well as our old friend Classics 06, Optimus Prime. That's how they stack up with each other very nicely. But with that out of the way, let's move on to the final thoughts so I can tell you exactly what I think of this figure. Freeze frame.
What have I done?
Freeze frame on freeze. So overall, I think this figure is absolutely gorgeous. There's just a few things that limit it from being my absolute favorite of all time. Number one is actually my lack of literacy with this character. I know of Tarn, of course, but he's not exactly my favorite character in the world. I'm more aligned with the Aligned continuity and G1, of course, which everyone knows. But I do, of course, know of the IDW continuity, have been reading Matimti, so I'm sure by the end of it, I'll be absolutely in love with this guy and in absolute fear of him at all times. But until then, he's just sort of all right. I do think that a lot of the people who have complained about this have valid complaints. I do think he's a little bit thinner and a little bit shorter than he probably should be. I think he should be more towards old Voyager size, maybe like the size of, like I said, Classics 06 Optimus, or even towards maybe even the Studio Series Dinobot size, as Perspective N has put it in his videos. But overall, I do think he's absolutely stunning looking. I mean, just look at that sculpting. I think that the Hasbro team absolutely knocked it out of the park with the design of this guy. Turning it into a physical product really did help, and I do really like this guy. So if you like this guy, or if you like Transformers in general, Matimti, Legacy Evolutions, what have you, make sure you share this video with all your friends, share it with your Facebook groups, all that good stuff. If you enjoy the content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe down below. It keeps helping me make these videos, keeps helping the channel grow. That's going to be pretty much it for this time. Thank you so very much for watching, and as always, peace.